And a good Friday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining for this tropical update. Still talking about Elsa out there in the Atlantic, what is now being called Hurricane Elsa. It strengthened from yesterday at this time till today. A little bit surprising, honestly, because of the fast forward motion. A lot of times when they're moving so fast, they just don't strengthen like they, like it did. And so now it's up to 85 miles per hour. Still a Category 1 hurricane, and it is forecast to strengthen just gradually a little bit more. But the interesting part is going to be just how much we're going to see as far as wind increasing over the next 24 to 36 hours as it kind of treks through the islands here. So something to watch. How's everybody doing today? Thanks for joining, Samantha, Nicole, Jeremy. Good to see you. Russ, how you doing, bud? Good to see you as well. And Phil, thanks for joining from Florida. Margaret and Raymond. All right, let's get to it. And good afternoon as well, Angie. So there's a look at Hurricane Elsa out there, about to lose the visible satellite as the sun's going down, but you can see the the presentation of the storm is decent. You can tell it's a tropical system, right? It got its act together and probably pounded those islands there earlier today. When you have a strengthening hurricane like that, a lot different than a system that would be weakening moving through. So I'm sure they took a little bit of a hit today. Earlier as this hurricane moved through the island chain there, Lesser Antilles. So this will continue to push off to the west now. And it'll be interesting to see how much it does strengthen, if it does over the next, like I said before, 24 hours or so. The National Hurricane Center actually holds it at 85. And they actually do not, I was mistaken there. They don't increase it as far as their forecast more than 85 miles per hour moving forward here. They actually keep it at 85 and then weaken it on its approach to the U.S. So that'll be interesting to see. Remember, the intensity forecasts are some of the hardest to pin down, especially from the National Hurricane Center. A lot of times those are a little bit off. So we'll see. Like I said, they keep it at 85. We'll see if Elsa behaves here moving forward through the islands. Now here's a look at the latest cone. This is the 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern cone that was just released. And, still not much of a change as far as the thinking. You do notice the 4 to 5 day portion of the cone. Like I told y'all yesterday, Florida Panhandle, still got to keep an eye on this thing. East coast of Florida, your European model still hooking it that way. So, there is still a little bit of a spread there toward the end of the forecast. So keep that in mind, especially folks in the Florida Panhandle. Southeast Louisiana, Mississippi Gulf Coast, Alabama Gulf Coast, right now looking a lot better as far as, getting impacted from this. It's not looking like that's going to be a direct impact to the areas there. But I'd still say Florida Panhandle to the east, need to keep an eye on this, especially areas around like Panama City, the Big Bend of Florida there, and then down the western portion of the peninsula. Those are the areas that really need to keep an eye on this, because I'll show you the GFS model in just a second. The GFS has not come to the east like this is saying. It's a little bit more west of this, and I think that's why the National Hurricane Center is not making any drastic shifts to this cone. But do notice that the National Hurricane Center does keep it as a hurricane. You see the little H there throughout the islands, and then once it starts to interact with Cuba there, by Sunday afternoon, it does appear that we could see this thing, obviously a little bit of a mountainous terrain there. It could start to really impact the presentation of the system and weaken it a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see when it reemerges then into the Gulf, Southeast Gulf there, Eastern Gulf, whatever you want to call it. By the time we get into like Monday afternoon or evening, let's see what it looks like at that point. Maybe it'll try and re-strengthen again, but it's not going to have much time. It'll start to pick up a little bit of speed there toward the end. Now, it is moving quickly right now. It is 30 miles per hour, the forward motion. I mean, it's going actually faster than it was yesterday. And of course, what we talked about yesterday, with a faster forward motion, it had more of a chance to hit that weakness quicker and turn north quicker. As opposed to a storm that would kind of slow down a little bit. It might give that high pressure time to build back in and then maybe take this more west. But if it keeps on this very fast motion right now, 30 miles per hour is fast, then this track becomes a little bit more likely. Especially more of a north turn a little bit quicker. So that'll be interesting to see. Right now, the forward speed is actually quicker than it was yesterday. And if it stays fast, well, yeah, we got to start believing these tracks about this thing turning a little bit north. Around this area. If it goes a little bit slower, then the western track becomes a little bit more likely. So something to keep in mind there. But as far as timing goes, again, don't pay too much attention to the exact center line here. But the point is, timing around the landfall here around the southeast Gulf, somewhere along the Gulf Coast maybe, looks to be Tuesday afternoon-ish. If it's more panhandle, you're probably looking Tuesday evening, early Wednesday. So just a little bit of timing there for you. As far as 4th of July and the Monday after 4th of July, those are looking good for the Gulf Coast still, although we will be vigilant and watching this on those days. So nothing like you can celebrate, but of course some people are going to be concerned about where this thing is going to be going. But there won't be impacts, I'm saying, for those 2 days. So just be aware of that. This is the big picture here. You can see Elsa, and Elsa is moving very quickly and will continue to do so, in this general direction over the next 24 to 30, 36, 48 hours, whatever, in the next 1 to 2 days. And then, the question becomes what conditions are going to be in around Cuba, back into the Gulf, and when does it make that turn? It is, you can really, this picture does tell a story here, because you can see that spin up here, and that's that trough kind of dipping down, and that's nudging in this direction. The high on top of Elsa right now is what it's riding along, and this is going to be nudging that high a little bit east, and so that'll give a little bit of room there for Elsa to kind of squeeze in. I don't know where that's going to happen though, but that's the scenario at play here. So this picture really tells the story. You can see that big spin on top of north of Elsa, that dip on the U.S., and that's the timing. That's the timing differences. So something to watch that scenario play out. So let's take a look here. This is the GFS model, and so as we go forward here, this is around tomorrow afternoon, around noontime, and I told you it'd be key to see as we get into Sunday afternoon. This is about noon. Let's look at position of the storm at this point once we get into Sunday, because a lot of the models are indicating this storm is going to go north of Puerto Rico, and let's see if that's the case, or if we're going to see I'm sorry, not Puerto Rico, Jamaica, north of Jamaica. Let's see if the track does, or does it take more of a south track? A more south track would obviously lead a little bit more west once it gets up here. Does it go north of Jamaica? Does it go right over the island? So it's just little things. You got to look at those little details in the track to see where it's going to actually happen. So, to kind of get some clues sooner than the actual landfall around the Gulf. So let's look for that first as we get into Sunday. Does the model, model indicates this is going to go north of Jamaica, but if it goes over the island or south of Jamaica, well, that may give clues to the eventual landfall in the Gulf. So just little things to look for like that. Maybe a lot of folks maybe not think about that, but let's take a look at that. And then it crosses Cuba. Now notice what GFS does, it kind of weakens it a little bit. And at that point when it weakens it, just maybe the GFS is saying, well, if it's weaker at this point, this is on Tuesday morning, by the way, maybe it doesn't feel as much of an influence from this weakness here, and it maybe goes a little bit more to the west before turning east. So notice where the GFS takes this now. It's a little bit west and maybe around the Big Bend of Florida, but it's weaker, so that wouldn't be much of an issue, because this would probably just be a tropical storm at that point. So that's in play as well. But you see the GFS still a little bit more to the west than where the actual National Hurricane Center track is. So until that would come more to the east, I don't see the National Hurricane Center really moving that too much to the east until some of the respectable models would trend that way. Now, if the models start trending back west and the GFS is still to the west, well, then the cone might shift that way. So the National Hurricane Center, by the way, like I mentioned yesterday, they still say, not my words, but them, they say there is still enough spread in the potential tracks in the long term, in the 4 to 5 day part of the cone, that this is still a low confidence forecast. So something key to understand there. The National Hurricane Center is still not very confident in the last part of that cone. So until they start getting very confident about it, I'll give you that information, on what they're saying. They're still not very confident in the latter part. So still probably some shifts coming in the last part of the cone. This is the H-Wharf. Kind of, last season, it was pretty good actually on intensity. And hopefully this is not the case with this year. But you see how this kind of evolves. This would be late tonight around midnight. Expands a little bit tomorrow morning. And then this is noontime tomorrow. And then by the time we get into late tomorrow night into Sunday, starts to kind of blossom a little bit and really strengthens as it approaches Jamaica. And then it becomes kind of a Cat 2 or Cat 3 hurricane. That's what the one H-Wharf model is saying. and then it moves over Cuba as a very strong hurricane. Then Cuba wrecks it a bit, the actual island, and then it comes back into the Gulf. Kind of a mess, probably doesn't redevelop into much. And same around the GFS, right? Around the Big Bend of Florida there, maybe as a strong tropical storm, possibly Cat 1 hurricane. That's one model. There are other models that are a lot weaker than that, but I like to kind of show you all perspectives and what we're seeing right now. But the HWRF is obviously a little bit stronger than what the National Hurricane Center is going with. As far as the European model, we looked at this one yesterday. Watch this. Still kind of the same thinking on this. Watch as we move forward. It's a little bit stronger than it was yesterday, but even so, it does still take it north and doesn't even get into the Gulf. It just kind of gets sucked into that weakness, and then that's that, as it moves out. So, and that actually, I don't know what this is that the European model showing there. That's actually not ELSA, so that's something else getting picked up, but I'm not sure what that is. We'll worry about that after, but I don't think that's going to be anything. The point is that the GFS is more more west, and the European's still east. So kind of splitting the difference right now in the forecast cone. Let me see, we had a couple of questions there. Ricky asked if there's any chance for Mississippi or Louisiana. It's looking a lot better, actually. I just mentioned that earlier. I would still say Florida, all this Florida Panhandle area down the West Coast here. This would probably be the area I'd say needs to really focus on this a little bit more. Obviously, this western portion of the Panhandle, Pensacola area, that would probably be an outlier solution. But I'd say in these areas here, Panama City, all the way down the West Coast, this would be probably the concern area, or at least the areas that would really need to watch this. Again, that would be the western part of the cone. But until some of the respectable models come back from that, I think we do need to watch that a little bit. This is the latest kind of model suite that was run. And again, you can see a lot of them are east, but there is a little bit of a cluster there in this general area, including the GFS, the UK model. And so until that would kind of shift in this direction, we're not going to see that cone shift that way. But again, remember, all these could shift back a little bit west as well. So we're not done yet as far as windshield wiper effect on the final track of this. So y'all keep that in mind. Let's see, is it possible for that to not make the turn and head further west to the Central Gulf? It's going to be hard not for it to make that turn. I mean, it's going to make the turn. If the storm's a little bit weaker, it might take a little bit longer to make the turn, but I'm still thinking nothing extreme that's going to go like straight west or well into the northern Gulf Coast area like, Louisiana. I think southeast Louisiana, Mississippi Gulf Coast, looking good at this point. We're going to watch it still, if it does something very tricky, but, at this point, this is looking like a solution that does make sense. But I think Florida Panhandle eastward down the Florida Peninsula are the ones that really need to watch this. But I would certainly say like areas like Pensacola, although it's a long shot, still got to watch this a little bit. But especially Panama City to the east, down the peninsula, those are the areas that really need to keep a close eye on this. That would be kind of on the western side of where the cone is right now. Yeah, that's true, Phil. Even if it doesn't, they're over there in Orlando, Central Florida area. So, yeah, you're going to get, even if, honestly, if it takes the center line and goes like this, yeah, you'd still be on the worst side of it and get that mess by the time we get into Tuesday. If it goes a little bit more to the west here, you probably still get some of that coming in. So unless this thing goes this way, Central Florida is still going to get a little bit of a hit from this. So keep that in mind. You're going to have those bands coming in with the possible isolated tornadoes and plenty of rainfall, probably those rounds, and it'll stop a little bit and you'll have another round of rainfall. So keep that in mind. If you're watching from the west coast of Florida, Central Florida, you're going to probably be on the eastern side of this storm. So even if it doesn't make landfall directly, you're going to be on the messy side. So you'll still get some impacts from this. As far as the Keys, Jamie's asking, well, if it takes that track right now, there'll certainly be some impacts in the Keys. It would move like right either over the Keys or just west of the Keys, going into Monday afternoon. And again, that timing could change a few hours, but certainly some impacts on the Keys. Tropical storm force conditions, lots of rainfall. The good news is that it does look like it's going to be picking up speed. You can see this is 2 p.m. Monday, 2 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday. It's not going to hang around. So as far as like a rainfall flooding thing, not looking like that's going to be the case. This thing going to pick up speed and get out of here pretty quickly as we go into the beginning of next week. So that's the good news about the speed there. Yeah, Pamela, the eastern side will be the side with that onshore flow, and that's where kind of that surge would be moving. So I don't know the heights or anything or where this is going to actually, it just depends on the trajectory. But yeah, the eastern side is where the storm surge would be located with that onshore flow. Let's see. Okay, great. Yeah, so that's what's happening today with Hurricane Elsa. Again, it's an 85 mile per hour hurricane, category 1. It is moving quickly at 30 miles per hour to the west, and we'll see what that speed does. The minimum pressure is 991, so it's certainly strengthened since yesterday. It's going to continue moving pretty quickly. Let's hope it doesn't strengthen too much more as we go through the next couple of days, as that HWRF model was showing. But yeah, certainly something to keep an eye on. Lindsay says we have a beach trip planned for the Florida Panhandle. What part of the Florida Panhandle? If it was like Pensacola, yeah, I mean, I'd say maybe keep the trip in Pensacola. But if it's Panama City, east, I don't know if you. Yeah, I mean, it just depends on where it is. It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one if you got a trip there, because what is that, the 5th through the 8th? So I think Tuesday would be the. No, I'm sorry. The 5th is what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tricky one there. I got to tell you, Lindsay, that's a tricky question, because it just depends on where this thing's going to go. If you're on the western side, I mean, you're still going to have a tropical storm out there. So regardless, the water is going to be rough. So it's not going to be the most pleasant beach trip, because I'm sure they're going to, I would think with a tropical storm there, you're going to probably have a rip current threat. They may close some of the water out there. So certainly, even if it doesn't make direct landfall, there'll still be some impacts there. So something to keep an eye on, I think. But that's totally up to you. Your call there as far as the trip goes. But yeah, there's going to be something probably in the Eastern Gulf, unless this thing takes that well to the east track. Maybe wait a little. I don't know how long you can wait, but maybe wait a little bit. Not much time to wait, though, is there? Yeah, it's a tough one. That's a tough one. May just have to make your decision and kind of go with it, but just depends. All right, so that's the latest on Hurricane Elsa. I'll continue to watch the models as we go through the evening and see what the National Hurricane Center says at 10 p.m. Everybody stay safe out there. Keep an eye on this, but it does look like we're going to have some sort of impact maybe in the Gulf early next week. Looks like Florida is the most likely scenario. I'd pay attention from the Panhandle all the way down the peninsula, and I'll keep y'all updated on the page. Thank you guys. Thank you, supporters. Thank you guys for sending stars. Appreciate y'all. Stay with the page, share this video, and I'll keep y'all updated, and most likely see y'all later on for Tropics After Dark. All right, everyone.